Well, everyone, today we have got a victory to celebrate because the mandatory linking of your PSN account, or, making of one, for PC gaming has just died a quiet death, which is quite nice. And rather funnily, well, SEGA have just went and done something very similar, but they've done it in the right way, and it's basically what Sony should have done in the first place, which is just a little bit humiliating. This all came out via a blog post that basically is admitting that this whole sort of strategy failed, right? Trying to use the stick failed, now they're going to be using the carrot, and it's all in time for the launch of Spider-Man 2 on PC, which is also something we got to talk about. So the way it's going to work is instead of mandatory account linking to access like any of your online features, now it's just going to be, if you link your account, you will get some sort of bonus things or benefits, which basically just means skins, the odd booster, that sort of thing. Which is funny. Strong-arming PC gamers is really not a great plan. It doesn't seem to have worked, caused a bunch of pointless drama, and they've just went and done the opposite. Now, it's all kind of funny because this is happening with Spider-Man 2. It's not really worth me doing a full video on Spider-Man 2, it's just another Sony port, but it is always curious to see platform-specific port release reviews that also involve a bit of a reappraisal of the game, like now that it's actually been out for a long time. And certainly there are some reviews that are way more harsh than, I guess, the average that you used to get. As an example, man, the PC Gamer review, like, it gives it a 57. It calls out toothless writing and a bit of an old-fashioned open-world design, which does line up with my biases for a game like this, but it also really slams them in the port. Now, it's also then interesting because Game Rant actually frames this as an amazing game, but they give it a 6 out of 10 nonetheless because of the quality of this port. It absolutely doesn't look like this is a game you should be buying right now based on that port quality, and Steam's 64% user score is full of reviews that are just pointing out poor performance and crashes, which is obviously not great for Sony. And as always, the quote from Insomniac leadership comes to my brain. Quote, "Is 3 times the investment in Spider-Man 2 evident to anyone who plays the game?" The, inherent answer in that is that not even they thought it was. Now, this is not really to slam Insomniac because the port is on Nixie's, not them, but it does have an implication on profitability and PlayStation's overall business. So, it's a mixed launch, but there is a good change in their overall strategy, so let's dive into it. What you may not know is the underlying trend that actually got us here. You see, PlayStation had quite a big problem. Half their audience was on the PS4, right? They were not moving on to the PS5. The adoption rates have not been fast. The PS5 has basically kept up with the PS4 in terms of its sales performance, but you would have expected it to have grown given that the market has grown. And overall, we are seeing that investment, like from gamers in console stuff, is actually fairly flat. And this, of course, means for Sony, oh shit, because their future big new games are going to be selling to so much fewer people if they're PS5 only. The way to get around this was to start porting things to PC and then to integrate PC with their now infamous live service plan, the one that we just covered the partial gutting of. Now, to pull this off, Sony made a key decision, the sort of decision that informs everything else that would happen. They wanted a unified account system to manage all of their games. And from Sony's perspective, you can see how this makes sense. It means better moderation, it means achievements being unified, and of course it means juicy player data to wave at investors. Because you will get some player data from Steam, but if you've got all your own telemetry running, if you've got your own account system, then you get the data that you want. And that sort of thing is actually worth a shitload of money to businesses. Now, for this plan, Helldivers 2 should have been the thin end of the wedge, and it should have happened in a different way. It was planned to have happened in a different way than it did. You probably remember the drama, right? It was as if Sony just woke up one day, saw, oh shit, Helldivers is doing really well. Let's force accounts on them because we need more accounts. We want all that data. Now that it was a wildly successful game. But in reality, that is not what they had planned. Actually, this whole account linking system was supposed to launch alongside Helldivers 2, so that with Helldivers 2, you never would have questioned the PSN account thing because it would have been there from the beginning. But of course, if you remember the Helldivers 2 launch, it was a complete shit show. The game did way better than they thought, and that requirement was dropped, right? So Arrowhead did not have to do it, meaning that rather than being a baseline part of the deal, it felt like Sony later changed the deal to basically make you jump through hoops for their own benefit, which sucked. But they also had not considered some very obvious things. PSN is not available globally. Steam is available globally. If these things don't match up for you, you're going to have a problem, and that meant that for over 100 territories, you just couldn't play the game. And the response to the whole drama was just to say, quote, "We're still learning what is best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable." Which really made it seem like they were going to change something, but after that point, just about every newly released game did require a PSN account. But that is until today. The basic story is that the stick is now gone and they're replacing it with a carrot. So no mandatory account requirements for Spider-Man 2, Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, God of War Ragnarok, and Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. But of course, they do want you to make an account. So now, if you make a PSN account and you link that account, you'll get some rewards. What that means is early access to various cosmetics and some XP boosts, and then what were pre-order cosmetics for Spider-Man 2 are now going to be linking rewards, and there's some cross-promotion where Last of Us Part 2 Remastered offers an Ellie skin from Naughty Dog's upcoming game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, so I guess they're just trying to get a little bit of cross-promo going there. But to me, the bizarre thing is this Policy 180 is not the first time that they've done, like, optional linking rewards. So Horizon Forbidden West quietly tested the waters here with a PSN-linked account bonus. Ghost of Tsushima only had the Legends multiplayer mode be the hook. And this really was a strange flip-flopping, because after that, they just whiplashed back to mandatory linking for 3 straight releases. It's hard to say exactly why, but there are some fundamental things. I mean, do you know what's bad for sales? Friction. Friction at any point of the process. Even if it is a tiny requirement in your end and you think it's only a few seconds, players shouldn't actually care, if it's enough to piss somebody off, it does matter, and it will count as a reason not to buy a game, and you'd be surprised, wrote large, how many sales that could cost a company. But the bad news is that region locking is still a problem here. They've tried to work on it, and the list has shrank down to around 130, which does sound massive, but then you will realize, I mean, it does include North Korea. So there's a few countries where sanctions mean, like, obviously they're not going to be servicing customers there. But here's actually where it gets kind of interesting, because we have seen some curious little movements lately. Horizon Forbidden West had a brief moment where someone seemingly, right, tried to apply blanket region lock policies without considering the specific game. That basically then got undone. People noticed it. It was a little bit strange. And then with Helldivers, they are actually expanding availability, but it still isn't really that much. So basically what they're doing is they're adding territories through their parent nations, like Greenland via Denmark. And if you're watching this in the future, bear in mind, I've recorded this video before World War III. Anyway, the problem is not fixed yet, but it does seem to be getting better. There's a fundamental problem here, though. Steam is global, PSN is not. If you're using Steam in a country without PSN, you are shit out of luck, and it basically seems that Sony cannot be seen to ask people to sign up for an account in a region that they don't support. But the hilarious thing, SEGA's basically gone and got almost all the benefits with none of the pushback, and no one cared. The Sony backlash happening would make you see SEGA's new unified account service and think, oh god, they're doing it again, there's going to be a drama. But no, here's how it works. You make a profile, you get cosmetics, and then you're done. There's really nothing else. They've launched it in PC and consoles, it's got incentives from day one, and basically if you're a Phantasy Star player, you get a new emote, you get some resources. If you're like a Dragon player, you get a Kiryu costume for signing up at the launch window. It's as simple as that. None of it's forced, and it is less deeply ingrained with their games, because I don't think they had the foundational, we are going to have a live service empire span onto the PC and span onto Steam, which is obviously what Sony were thinking about. What it essentially is, right, is a really big email list. But it's an email list that will tie telemetry to users, and that is important. That's because Sega have got big plans for live service games. Funny enough, just like Sony did. And I think Segas are insane. I mean, I'm not bullshitting you. They literally have planned an MMO version of Crazy Taxi. Yeah, Crazy Taxi, the MMO. I don't know what to make of that. And similar for Virtua Fighter. But basically, with those emails being obtained, Sega will bring millions of people into their information sphere. And it's just like how if you go onto an e-commerce website, you're going to get a 10% discount for joining their email list. That's because email lists are worth millions these days. If you actually go and look into the whole, making money online niche, which is so full of grifts and bullshit, but so much of it is centered on email lists. For good reason. That's how you directly access your customers in a way that bypasses traditional advertising. That's why these companies want your email. Makes a lot of sense. SEGA, though, just did it the smart way and didn't spark a drama, unlike Sony, who, put their foot in their mouth, tripped, and landed on a landmine that they also happened to place. We're coming to the end, but I've got one or two little juicy things, including something I heard in the download for you. So look, nobody has learned their lessons more painfully than Sony through 2024. I mean, I say learned. Maybe they haven't learned, but they certainly have had painful lessons. Needless dramas like this one, Concord, and even in spaces where they've historically dominated, things have went sideways. LEGO Horizon Adventures has not replicated the success of Astrobot, and I definitely need to research it more. But I have heard on the grapevine from, some little birds that sometimes chirp in my ear that game was shockingly expensive and things have not went well. And if you look at their other products, I mean, the Portal did well, but PSVR 2 has pivoted to PC compatibility. That tells us all that we need to know about their adoption rates for that. And the PS5 is struggling to keep on par with the PS4. And that is kind of a worrying trend because you would expect this industry to be growing. And while it is growing in literal dollars, inflation adjusted, the growth is actually flatter than you would expect. And if you're wondering why companies are getting more and more desperate, that's one of those reasons. And Sony are finding out that being the market leader does not make them bulletproof. Especially not against their own bullets from their own gun that they've pointed at their own body. Now, I just teased you that overall industry growth is shockingly stagnant in real terms, and if you want to learn more about that, watch this video next. It's ostensibly about the $100 Grand Theft Auto rumor, but in reality that video is about the far deeper trends that are impacting, well, basically all the business decisions that we see. So watch it next.